2, 1. Oh yeah! Ha ha ha! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Hey! Welcome to Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous. I don't know why we do that clown intro, because it's funny. Okay, yes, enough clowning around. I am Tom, Fantasy Sports Addict. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous. Fabulous Sunday show, free agent acquisition budget and bidding. Sunday fun day. Joined tonight by my good buddy, as always, Andrew at FantasyAid1. How's it going, Andrew?
Hey, pretty good.
Good. Okay, so it was an interesting week. Week 2 is in the books of this really crazy derby of a season. Yeah, we almost lost baseball entirely, didn't we? Like that didn't look good.
I feel like we have. I haven't watched the Cardinals in a while.
Yeah, like, was it the COVID break for half the league? Yeah, pretty much. Whoops, somebody didn't do something right. We'll talk about that for a minute. But again, if you just joined us, the first time you joined us, hit that comment button down below if you like what we're talking about or you have any disagreements, whatever. Thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when we go live. If you want to chat with us, chat is open. You can always hit that super chat. Ooh, throw us a few bucks. Yeah. Much appreciated, but let's get right into it. Week 3, free agent acquisition bidding is in the books for the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. And for the first week so far, I have not just thrown money out the window. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about except for what didn't happen. But Andrew, it sounds like you got a few players. Why don't you just take us right into your league and tell us what happened for you tonight?
Yeah, so I put in a bid on a couple players. I only got one, but for my league, this was like the big week where everyone started spending because so much has changed in the last week.
Right.
Especially on the closer front. Texas, Nick Goody, Colorado, Jairo Diaz, Cubs, don't know, Jeremy Jeffress, Rowan Wick, somebody, anybody but Kimbrel. But I only picked up one player because I'm broke. But I picked up Dominic Smith. Did you see what happened with the whole Yoenis Cespedes?
Yeah, that was. I mean, he was just like he pulled the literal classic Eric Cartman. Screw you guys, I'm going home. And nobody he just left. He just straight up bounced. Like, see ya, I'm out. No more. That's it.
Yeah, and Danny Santana went down with an injury, so I found myself in need of an outfielder, and I'm hoping Dominic Smith takes that DH spot in New York.
It sounds like he should. Again, a guy that I think most leagues were targeting, besides just the obvious closer carousel targets, right? Like, I mean,
right.
I mean, there were a few other mainstays. Now, who went really ridiculously over the top in your league? Let's see. We got Chatwood's going to be the big one for
yeah.
That's
2020, and we're bidding $355 on Chatwood.
Well, I mean, like, I call him Acewood. I picked him up in the home leagues, and he's been pretty good for me. I got both those starts, and I'm doing the little mini victory lap, like, look at me, yeah, 2 weeks in. But yeah, that's the for deeper leagues and just maybe more casual leagues. That's the big starting pitching ad that you want to be aware of. Let's see who else you got.
Yeah. I mean, we got a couple of hot starters in Jacoby Jones and
Colin Moran.
Yeah, those two. They have a hot start. So
yeah, Moran's.
I had a bid on Jacoby Jones, but I knew I wouldn't get him.
Okay. Yeah, I was in a similar boat. Just to flash over to my league real quick. I'll show you what we're dealing with here. Just more of the same old. But yeah, it's just basically who wants to spend the most on the most insane thing, right? Like Tyler Chatwood,
yeah,
283. Whoa. Robinson Cano, whom I dropped, I think week 1, he went for 257, which I think is more than I spent on a player to replace him. But that's just now. Granted, the numbers have improved, and then of course your standouts like Moran, Crawford. I mean, last week we were talking in the chat, and we had Toasty Baseball Guru, our good buddy Mr. French Toast. He was talking about, let's discuss JP Crawford, and I think both you and I were like, we don't trust it.
Yeah.
We don't trust it. But it continued for a second week, and when you're desperate for anything you can get some of these weeks here, especially in weekly lineups where you're like, yeah, gee, it'd be really nice if like the news came down that I was going to miss 6 games from, I don't know, the Phillies or the Cardinals or the Marlins. They just, there's out, like, just nothing's happening, and you're like, oh, that's nice, just dead, nothing in the lineup. Yeah. But yeah, Crawford looks like a very serviceable, producer of runs. Like, he's going to get you some what appears to be decent batting average. I mean, again, he's one of those players you just ride until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I gotta ride that hot hand.
Yeah, and typical here. Rest of the stuff with closers. I thought Taijuan Walker was a nice pickup. He's probably owned in most leagues, but if he's not, like, he's we'll go to the 2-start pitchers. He's scheduled for 2 starts. And then the rest of it, Dominic Smith would be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. One of the things I noticed that like surprised me was if Varsho wasn't owned, he really didn't go for as much as I expected. I don't know that this would probably be that week to buy in on him, especially if you can get him for $5.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he hasn't. I don't. What he had like 1 or 2 at bats right now. Not really.
he really hasn't hit that much. He's been like
Yeah.
mostly pinch hits and like defensive replacement kind of stuff, and like there's definitely promise there. I like him a lot as a D-backs fan, but $5 seems pretty reasonable, and I'll probably regret not having put $5 on him. But when you're down to $37, week 3, you may come away with a big donut. I pulled up a rusty tin can, and a rubber boot when I went fishing this week, so that's my fab week. It's pretty sad.
Surprised Nick Goody only went for 29 in your league. I mean, I know the Texas situation isn't completely clear, but it looks like Goody.
Yeah, it does. He seems to have like at least the stuff in the upper hand. Again, like I was throwing like $1 at this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're like $1, Chuck, you can't really complain, especially when you're going ridiculous down here in week 1, like whatever I did down here, just madness. But yeah, I mean, these are names you should be looking at. Now, just to switch over real quick, just another sample example of what you might see in, other TGFBI leagues, or maybe, your, like we said, your own league could be a little bit, you could be benefited by some of these pieces. I'm going to go through Cubby Knowles' league, see what he got, and we're going to talk about what Nate picked up tonight. Nate, this was like his first huge week, and it was all like all value. So like Cubby, it looks like his big splash this week for the 2-start pitch was Taijuan Walker, and he doesn't look like stellar, like, oh my God, wow, look at that, it's the second coming of Randy Johnson or something. It's not like that. But looks like a nice rebound theoretically for the kid. So he spent 75. Seems pretty nice. Seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Now, if we go through down to Nate, here's where Nate got pretty aggressive this week, but he actually didn't spend that much. So he ended up picking up Lurie Garcia, who I picked up last week, Kyle Freeland, Ty Buttery, whatever, Ty Butt. He got Jacob Stallings and then Joey Bart. So he tried to get like ahead of the curve on some of these players. The Joey Bart one, for a couple dollars, $3.
How much did you pay for Freeland?
Freeland, he put down 16.
That's a great. I picked up Freeland in a lot of our dynasty leagues because he's been pitching well. That's great for $16.
Yeah, all right. So Lurie was 18, Freeland 16, Buttrey was 15, Stallings 10, Bart 3. So like, for not a whole lot of money, not a whole lot of fab, he's got himself set up for, maybe next week, maybe the week after, that kind of thing, should our season continue. But yeah, like when we're looking at all these moves that people have made, like maybe you and I were a little aggressive early on.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the length of the season generally, I feel like you have to be extra aggressive. But when we see what we saw last week, with all these players suddenly going out with COVID, just massive spikes in infection in clubhouses and maybe some false positives, but just all the uncertainty and everything. Like, if you haven't spent we're sitting on top of $1,000 for like a third of a regular season and you're not splashing cash. Let's take a look at where you're in the standings. Oh, look. Oh, bottom third. Oh, look at that. Terrible. Yeah, splash some cash or just stop playing in these leagues because you don't know what you're doing. Like, now, your home leagues, again, you may not have the FAAB bidding. You may not have to bid on a player, put some money where your mouth is. You can just go hit the free agent pool or the waiver wire and just go click an ad. But, definitely I think the big names you want would be some of the closers, especially if you're just a saves only league. And then, I'm a big fan of Crawford at this point, ride or die until he's, that's it. He's kaput. And same thing with Acewood, like I love me some Acewood. So, those are like, if you've been paying attention, like it's not too shocking to see what's going and, hopefully, these kinds of videos are helpful for people when they go to set their weekly lineups or go make those moves throughout the week. But yeah, like I think next week's going to start being where it's like prospect time. Like in some of these leagues, who was it? Was it Mize?
Casey Mize.
Yeah, NFBC had just added him like a week or two ago or something. Like, so he was like there, but he's not really been.
Or Mackenzie Gore is also
Mackenzie
there.
Gore. Okay, yeah, it was Mackenzie Gore, and so like he's owned in most leagues, especially if people know what's going on. But if you're like sitting there in your home league and it's just like some standard Yahoo or ESPN league, you're like, I need some pitching. Go make a speculative grab on get your Mackenzie Gore and just like sit on him a week or two. And then like next thing you know, you're like, oh, that worked out. Sorry guys, taking it to the bank. So that's the way to do it. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, about picking up free agents from week to week, go ahead and let us know. I don't know. Is there anything we should talk? Oh yeah, one more thing. We'll talk about this. The 2 start pitching. I should do that right before we go. I just kind of want to point something out about 2 start pitching. Like this is hilarious. Must starts all formats, and so it's like 15 guys. Like your obvious must starts, but even some of these matchups aren't all that like whoa. Look at that matchup. I mean, there's some like Garrett Cole going against Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. That should be
Paddock versus Dodgers in Arizona.
Yeah, that I don't love, but Paddock has kind of worked over the D-backs. So I don't know. Let's but some of these are very nice matchups. Some of these are not so nice matchups. But for it to be a must start all formats, it seems just kind of silly to have that many. But I mean, there you go. Sleepers and questionables. It seems like last week's list all over again, honestly, with Herman Marquez, Plesac, Boyd. And, why is it that it's like the same thing over again? Well, because it kind of is. Like a lot of these guys that were supposed to make 2 starts either didn't, or when they did, it was just like, well, he only pitched 4 innings.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I do like, Heaney's matchups. I think Bumgarner is just gonna.
I am not starting Bumgarner against Houston.
No, there are definitely some of these names I wouldn't even start like for one of these starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
Brady Singer versus Minnesota and Cubs. That's not great.
This is just asking for trouble. This is asking for that ball to just go flying. Now he could have, he could shock us all, but he doesn't have that overwhelming, overpowering kind of stuff that you'd expect or you'd want in matchups like that. Standard here. Like, well, maybe if you really got desperate. And even then, the only one of these guys I would probably look at would be like Happ or Waino. I mean, Waino just
if the Cardinals play, we don't even know if they're going to.
That's true. And then, like, of course, no thanks. Like the no thanks. This is your 2 start list, obviously, for week 3 on CBS. There's other sites with this kind of information, but it really is just kind of a grab bag of just nothing you really want here. I mean, Gossman, like, and Yeah, Gossman had some nice strikeouts his last time out, but he looked terrible just the same otherwise. So don't want any piece of that. He's sitting on the bench all week next week. Sheffield, like the Sheffield, the 2-start pickup that Cubby made. I let I'll go. I'd go out with that. I'd like to let that happen. I'd see what happened there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nah. I don't want anything else on the no thanks list. Like, whoa, Johnny Cueto going against in Colorado. Whoa, hey, real desperate. I mean, that's like if you're rolling Cueto out against Colorado and Los Angeles both at home, like, hey guys, I needed a starting pitcher. Woo. Oh, and then your outcome's going to be like, woo. Oh man. But that is just this season in a nutshell already. So, I mean, can't really complain about it, I guess. But yeah, so just an example, your 2-start pitching. Don't really live by that. I wouldn't say probably until maybe really close to the end of the season when we know for sure like who's actually locked into a rotation spot or who can go more than 4 innings, it seems like. I mean, there's so many, we got the opening thing going on. We got a series of relievers just throughout games. We've got, starters that can't even get through 3 or 4. And it's wacky out there. It's the wacky races. But yeah, it's just stay with it, stay active, and that'll be the important thing. We'll shut it down. I'll just remind everybody, if you like what we're doing, subscribe to the YouTube channel, thumbs up, comment down below. Got any questions or disagreements? Click the bell for the reminder. And anytime we're live, you can always hit that live chat and like, hey guys. And we'll end with what we usually do. It's the Fantasy Sports Serenity Prayer. Fantasy gods, please grant us the COVID serenity to make it through one more week of the season. The courage to ad drop aggressively and splash that cash. And the wisdom, as always, to avoid gentlemen's clubs in Atlanta. Amen. That's all right. You can hit up my buddy Andrew on Twitter at FantasyAid1. And you can hit me up on Twitter at letter F, letter S, or double, letter A, FSAA. Website is Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous or fantasysportsaddicts.com. I always get confused there because I'm always thinking about the delicious prize at the end of the rainbow. Oh, it's golden. You ready for it? Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week for free agent acquisition bidding and budgeting, week 4.